The truth is when you are aiming at something that most people think is impossible, of course you're going to stumble upon the principles that get you there. Basically, the world becomes your library. 10 years ago, I decided to shoot for something that's never been done. Then I reoriented my entire mind, body, heart, and soul to the world became my library to find out how to do it.
When you and I are getting ready to record, there's zero part of me that's nervous, worried. I'm not worried about anything. But when we do speeches, I am. I've only done however many in-person speeches. But here's the thing. It took 150 podcast episodes before I got confident as a podcaster. It might only take a third of that for live events because I already have some of the attributes built up. Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today's weird and strange because I don't know the title of the episode yet because Alan and I were thinking that I did an interview of Alan recently, and we talked about productivity, and he said, I will interview you on something today. And what does that really mean? It's not really an interview. I guess it's just like a more directed conversation based on what somebody wants to hear from the other person.
No, it's going to be an interview.
Yeah, but it's different.
I told you before we hit record, I said, I'm going to come at you on this one.
Yeah, you did.
And you said, do whatever you want, man.
I said, bring it. You think
bring the heat.
You think I'm nervous? I'm
Son.
not nervous. You think I'm losing sleep? I'm not losing sleep.
You
not
ready?
over you. Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. It was actually really funny because before this, we were trying to think about, because Kev interviewed me about productivity, and I adore it. I think it was of value. I hope you all agree. If you haven't listened to that episode, you're not missing much. No, it is really a good one. And I was thinking to myself, what do I want to interview Kev about? This show, Next Level U, pun intended, is about helping people achieve their goals and dreams. That's what it's about. You're on the growth journey with us. We're trying to live our dream life. We're trying to build our life and ourselves and self-improvement, holistic self-improvement in your pocket, health, wealth, life, and love. And it's heart-driven, but no BS, holistic self-improvement for dream chasers. That's our 10-word description of this podcast. So shout out to all of you out there viewing or listening to this. Dream chasers. Here we go. First question. Kev, when did you officially consider yourself a dream chaser?
When did I officially consider myself a dream chaser?
Still don't.
Probably in 2018 when I left my job to do this. Before I wasn't embarrassed about it. I just wasn't as pumped as I am today because I knew there was potentially some negativity associated with being a dream chaser. So I would say, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. I moved from New Hampshire to Worcester, Massachusetts. I lived with Matt. That's when I felt like a dream chaser. We were renovating the upstairs and the downstairs. He was doing his thing. I was helping him with his dreams. I was going to Alan's. We were podcasting. So I would say like when you and I really started focusing on the podcast, that's when I would say I identified as a dream chaser.
What was the scariest part of identifying as a dream chaser? Not just inside yourself. Well, so first question is, when did you identify inside? And then when did you kind of go public with that identity?
I think when I started the podcast, I internally did. It's like, this is different. I'm going to post it on social media. People are going to think it's weird as hell. What about the people I asked to come on? So I think that was probably when I internally self-identified. And then...
When you say people, who do you mean? People are going to think it's weird?
Everyone that I knew when I was younger, everyone that I went to high school with, all of my not close circle of friends, but anybody on like the second or third, what's the word I'm looking for? Ring of my friends. I didn't know. Or if I meet somebody new, what is that going to be like? When I start dating, when I'm trying to date, what's that going to be like? There was just a million fears around that. And even when I had been doing it for a couple of years, there was a lot of people that didn't understand.
It's so weird how achieving your dreams is seen socially as the coolest thing ever.
Mm.
You picture someone winning an Academy Award or an Olympic gold medal or winning a Super Bowl or whatever it is. And it's, believe in yourself. I watched Russell Crowe's speech when he won the Academy Award for Gladiator in 2001, 2005. I don't know. It was in early 2000s. And he said, for someone who, I think he was born in Australia, someone who never thought this could be possible for someone like me, starting from where I started, never stop believing. Very inspirational, very good. I think that's great. However, there is only one Academy Award for Best Actor every year, and there's hundreds of thousands of people who aspire to be an actor or actress. So my question for you, I've said this a lot. People are playing not to lose more than they're playing to win, myself included. I, in hindsight, was playing not to lose people, not to lose relationships. And my fear of losing relationships held me back from focusing on my goals more. And in hindsight, it's very clear that that was never going to work. If I tried to hang on to all my relationships from back then, there's no freaking way you and I could be where we are today. What were you playing not to lose?
Probably perception. I think that's one of the reasons I was so afraid of. Failure for me was twofold. It was the actual failing of something and looking like an idiot from an external perspective, but also feeling like shit. It was a mixture of those two things of, okay, well, if I fail in front of people, they're going to look at me differently. And they're going to know
mean?
I won't have the same influence. I won't have the same credibility. People won't like me as much. They'll just look at me differently. It's like, if they look at me differently, will they look at everything I've ever done differently?
And why would that matter?
I think it would just change their perception of me, and it might affect the relationship. I think ultimately my fear was I'd get left behind. That more than anything. I know I'm weird when it comes to relationships. I miss people and I think about people all the time. I was thinking of somebody recently. It used to be a really good friend of mine that I've talked about before. But it just, I don't know, it was never going to change, and I just didn't want to delude myself into thinking it was. So I think my fear was people would just look at me differently. Maybe they wouldn't respect me. Maybe they wouldn't believe in me. Maybe they wouldn't be proud of me. That's a big one for me. I like when people are proud of me. That feels good.
Of all the people I coach, I do now have a pretty deep belief that everyone's playing not to lose more than they're playing to win. And I think that your suicidal ideation in your mid-20s and my car accident in my mid-20s helped us play to win more than playing not to lose.
I would say that's fair. Because for me, nothing really jumps off the page. I was playing not to lose this dream. That's literally what I was thinking. When we first started this and I left my job and then I went broke, it was literally, I have to find a way to make enough money to get to the end of the day. And then it was, I need to find a way to make enough money to get to the end of the week and get to the end of the next week. Find a way to pay the bills this month. My biggest fear was that...
What is it now?
My biggest fear?
No. It was get through the day, then get through the week, then get through the month. What is it now?
I would say from an effort perspective, it's essentially the same. From an effort perspective. It literally is like, just get through today. And then when you do that 7 times in a row, you've gotten through the week. That. And then I have a lot of very small goals that are kind of spaced out, so it's just get closer to that. I wrote this in my Dreamliner today. Today was a relatively uneventful day. Almost nothing happened. Nothing to write home about. Almost nothing measurable happened. My goal today was to move the rocks that move the rocks that move the rocks that get me to the thing. That was it. That was what I was trying to do today. So that's the big thing. and just try to get a little better. It's not really, again, we have money in the bank and we have a quote unquote successful business. So it's the scarcity is just way different than it used to be for me. So it's not like that anymore. I mean, those were fucking brutal times. It was absolutely terrible. Just fucking terrible. It's just terrible. And that's why I have so much empathy for somebody who, when they start something, they get like that wave of hopelessness. It's like, this is not going to work. Or how am I going to be able to make this work? I understand. I remember that. I remember what it was like playing credit card roulette. Literally, like, which of these will work? Like, which one of these? So, Tara and I think the first time we went up to Vermont, her family has a house in Vermont, a cabin. I think it was in 2019. I think. No, it was 2020. And I remember I was sitting on the picnic table up there, looking at my bank account, and I think I had like $15 in my bank account. And I was like, how the fuck am I gonna get through this week with Taryn? Like, I'm gonna pay for stuff. I want to pay for stuff. How am I gonna do that? And I remember we had one client at the time, and I was editing his videos. There was no Wi-Fi, so I was editing his videos, trying to do it on my hotspot on my phone. It was brutal. It was just brutal. And I remember when we went up this year, I was sitting on the picnic table. And it was like, wow, so much is. I have a beautiful car, and I'm married, and we're gonna cross 2,000 episodes. It was soonish at this point. You know that we just had the best year we've ever had in business. It was just
little more than $15 in the bank account.
A little more than yeah. But it was just very humbling, and it was a very good reminder. But that's the thing that sucks is people say, like, because I really want to say this quote, but I know it's bullshit. The next 5 years are going to happen anyway, so you might as well do something constructive with it. Fucking easier said than done. Yeah, no, thanks, Kev. Easy for you to say when you're kind of on the other side. I know. But if I didn't do the thing for the 5 years, I wouldn't be. So I don't know. That's the thing that's really hard is like, if you're walking through fire, keep going. I understand. I understand what it sounds like. I understand what it's supposed to feel like. I understand what it's supposed to mean. I don't know if it helps in the moment, honestly.
What does help?
Would you regret stopping? What would you regret more? Would you regret stopping, or would you regret continuing the pursuit of something that seems wildly unlikely? That's up to you. I would rather continue the pursuit of something that seems wildly unlikely, now knowing that I'm going to get way further than I would have if I just picked something super certain, and the lessons that have come with it. So yeah, it's up to you to decide, what regret do you want to have more, potentially. Do you want to have the what if? I never really wanted that. I wanted to fight professionally. I trained. That was close enough for me. There's no what if. Like, I got as close as you can get without doing it. Okay, cool. What if I was a firefighter? I gave that a run. I had some experiences. Like, there's very little what if when it comes to that. I didn't want what if.
Well, here's the problem with this too. You've gotten to a place in your life where you've achieved your dreams. Not all of them, obviously, but a lot of them. Being a full-time podcaster, being married, dream car, not your dream car, but a luxury vehicle. Healthy, wealthy, in love. And I think that one of the things that's really hard to articulate is that having been on the other side of tremendous adversity, of course I'm grateful for all the terrible relationships I was in.
Yeah.
Because I ended up with the best person I've
now
ever
that
met
you're
in
not.
my- Yeah, now that I'm with Emilia. Well, Kevin asked me one time, he said, would you go back and change anything if you could? And I said, do I still get to meet Emilia Smith? And he said, yes. I said, then I would change fucking everything. Almost everything. But that's the paradox that you can't. Yeah. If people say, well, you shouldn't have regrets because that led you here. Listen, only the people who make it to a great place don't have regrets.
And I think they still do. They just don't
admit it. They don't admit it.
Yeah, because the regret doesn't outweigh the happiness or the gratitude or the pleasure or the joy or whatever it is. Everybody has regrets.
Yeah, if Kev still had $15 in his bank account, wasn't married, didn't have any of his dreams, wasn't a full-time podcaster, and was at a job he hates, do you seriously think he wouldn't have any regrets?
Right. Well, this is the hard part. Let's say we did this. We gave it a real go. And you and I were in a much different situation. It was like, Alan, we're about to record our 2000th episode. Nobody has listened to an episode in the last 500. I don't know,
So
man.
bad.
I don't know. What do you think? Are we just delusional at this point? What are we doing here? At least then you could have the conversation and say, look, we gave it a go. Would we regret stopping right now, or would we regret continuing? I think that's the question. What would you regret more? A lot of things I did for too long and I regretted it. Very few things that I actually quit did I regret. Honestly. But if I wasn't where I am today, would I say that? Don't know.
Exactly.
That's
No
the
idea.
problem.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
There was someone who sat me down early on in Kevin and I's journey, and she said, "Are you full of shit? Are you delusional? It's okay." And I remember thinking, "Are you out of your mind? We're really successful. Why don't you see where this is going?" I understand now in hindsight. And by the way, that fired me up, so thank you to that person. I mean, you want to talk about motivation. You know how to push my buttons. Fucking don't believe in me. So exciting. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna fucking, yeah. I'm gonna get the last laugh on this one. That's really, you ever want to get me motivated, that's what I need.
Yeah, tell Alan he can't do something.
Yeah,
it works
exactly.
well.
It does. It works really well. So what I now understand is that person could not project into the future. They couldn't see what we're currently doing in our current run rate and project it into the future. There's this website that one of my clients uses. He's a YouTuber. I've talked about him anonymously. And you can go to this website and it will show your current trajectory on YouTube, and it'll show where you'll be in 5, 10, 15, 20 years if, based on the algorithms. And in finance, you can do it too, right? If you have, so I had one client once who had $300,000 invested in an account. Her father had started a fund when she was born and just kept putting in it. And she saved 20% of her paycheck. And she never made more than $20 an hour, which again is pretty solid, actually, all things considered. And she just always put money away. And when I was coaching her, I was like, you do know you're going to have 11.8. I think the calculation was $11.8 million in 20 years, assuming things go as well as they have in the past. It could be a little more, could be a little less, could be a lot less could be a lot more too, right? And again, it's just called future projection. So you can look this up, the research shows. And she's like, seriously? And I was like, yeah. Why are you doing this then? You're taking money out of your current pocket to put it in your future pocket, and you never calculated it? She's like, no, my dad just told me to do that. Yeah. Her dad was a finance teacher. Professor.
You know it's good. It's like, why do people eat salads? Do you know exactly all the nutrients and what's in them? No, but it's good. It's good for you. It's better than a cheeseburger. It's good.
Well, we looked up how to spell sequoia before this. I would look up the nutrients in the salad because I'm numbers, micros, all that. But I don't wing anything. So again, we'll get this off me for a second here. Back to you.
I wing it.
As someone who doesn't project in the future, because here's the thing, I'm certain, Kev was never certain that we'd make it to where we are today.
No.
And Kev asked me one time, are you proud of us? And I was like, dude, please don't ask me that on air. You did. And the answer is yes and no. Yes, I'm proud of the effort and the work we do in the world. No, I'm not fucking proud of where we've gotten. I mean, we are behind, sir. Okay? And in some ways, I'm proud of certain things. But ultimately, I'm most proud of the work we do in the world. I'm most proud of the sincerity and the effort and the time we've invested into becoming the best men we can be. And I am proud of some of our accomplishments. But from my perspective, mathematically, we are capable of way more. And that's my truth. As someone who doesn't project as naturally into the future based on growth curves and exponentials, how did you hold on to belief when things were so dark?
That's always a hard question because, one, I had you. That's always a piece. So that's something that's not, you can get around
How
the
did
right
you trust
people.
me
I'm
in
an
a world
idiot.
where most people didn't?
Yeah, I'm an idiot.
Well, you were right to do it.
I know, but I don't know. I think it's because you had worked on yourself more than you had worked on anything else. And it was like, that's different. Like, nobody else that's giving me advice has worked on themselves that much. Like, they think they have all the answers just for some reason. Like, where did you get these answers, though? You were somebody that had worked on yourself a lot, so it just made sense. It's like, dialed in on himself. Like, there's got to be something to that. And in the beginning, it started from a place of self-improvement. In the beginning, there was no talks about business for the first year.
Yeah, for sure.
So it wasn't about that for me. In the very beginning, it was like, you know way more than I do about self-improvement and all of these things that I want to learn more about. Let me talk to you more. That's where it started. And then you just seemed like you knew how to lead. So I was like, I'll just kind of follow the lead and see what happens.
Yeah, I was wrong about a lot of stuff.
Well, we both were. But I know that's really hard to replicate. Because for every story like this, there's 99 of somebody that gets taken advantage of, or it doesn't work, or... Like, I'm not worried about that. There's zero part of me that's ever worried one day you and I aren't going to work well together. I don't even think about that. I honestly think more, what do I do if you get mauled by a bear on one of these reckless hikes? What do I do to the business?
Bring your bear spray.
Outside of that, I'm not worried about, are we going to wake up 5 years from today and say, like, I don't know if I want to do this business partner thing. Like, I'm not worried about that. But I also understand how rare that is. Like, all of our mentors told us this was dumb. Not all of them, but several of them said, like, this is dumb, guys.
Most of them, yeah.
Well, with all the love and all due respect, you are not us. So maybe it would work for you.
They're not us. What is different about us in that, what you just said there?
I think you and I have very, very, very aligned core values. We would rather be good men than... I'd rather be a good man with less money than a terrible person with all the money. That's one.
Same.
Our ultimate goal is to add value to a martyrdom level. We just like helping people. We just do. I just like helping people. I really do. I'm not faking that. I'm not faking that part. I love that.
Yeah, same.
That's like my favorite thing. Somebody messaged me. Somebody joined Evan Carmichael's mastermind, and evidently, I didn't know this. It's super cool. There's like all the presenters that have ever been there. There's videos in like a library, and it's cool. And this person saw mine, and they sent me an email, and they're like, "Hey, I'd love to have you on my podcast. It was amazing. This. It's like,
nice.
Yeah, of course. They said, is that something you would make time for? I got nothing but time for that. I got nothing but time for that. Yeah, I would love to do that. So, I don't know. I just think that I think it's easy to take your experiences because we do it. We're a podcast about self-improvement. We try to do a great job of not blanket.
You never mention humility. Is that because it takes away? Dude, the truth is you were humble enough to actually... Because I'm thinking, too, it's not like you're the only person that I tried to convince.
I don't think I was that humble. I think I just I had so little belief.
But
I don't know
I
if
have
it was...
a lot of people that have I have very little belief that didn't trust anything I said.
Well, I'm not saying they're wrong.
They are wrong, mathematically.
I know, mathematically, but...
We've made it. Like, we've again, made it is in quotes here.
I know.
We are more successful than 99% of people thought we'd be.
Yeah. But,
coming from where we came from. So you were more accurate than them. / and would they have... I
I was accurate because I stuck around. To maybe not.
But they would have stuck around had they believed like you did.
I don't know, man. No, we've had this conversation. We've had if I guaranteed you $1 million 5 years from today in a bank account, but you had to do the same shit 7 days a week, you couldn't miss. You miss once, you lose it. Most people are not going to take that. Most people aren't going to take that.
Hello, 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 NLU listener. Thank you, as always, for listening to Next Level University. Real quick, I just want to jump in and let you know about the Next Level Dreamliner. This is a journal that I use every single day. Achieve your dreams 90 days at a time. It breaks down your dreams into goals, milestones, and daily habits. We hope you enjoy it. The link will be in the show notes. But what if instead of $1 million, it's you get to live your dream for the rest of your life?
The problem is, and I'm glad you touched on this, when people say, so I get to live my dream, it's hard as shit. The dream is hard. It's the best. It's fulfilling. It's amazing. It's aligned. But it's like a treadmill that never stops, and it gets faster. And there's Legos on the treadmill.
There's Legos.
There's
you
Legos.
Just picture Home Alone when he steps in through the. That's
also,
what just went.
In retrospect, he could have just looked down and he would have seen like.
Let's be real.
Marv.
Those films. Marv is the dumbest character. In any film ever.
Yeah, very, very, very possible.
On purpose, obviously. He's acting.
He's a very interesting character. He does like wood sculptures, and I think he like makes maple syrup and stuff. Seems like a down to earth cool dude for sure.
Those films, they're walking up the stairs pretending, and then it's like, oh, there's two, and then there's the bar. Yeah.
It's a great flick.
This past Christmas, the holiday season, I actually watched the first one and the second one. I was reminiscing on my childhood. They did a good job.
Well, don't go any further than the second, because the other ones are dog shit.
Of course, yeah. The sticky bandits or whatever.
The wet bandits and the sticky bandits, yeah.
Okay. People out there, goals and dreams. What's the thing about goal achievement that you didn't understand? That you were just wrong about? Purely wrong?
Man. It's really easy to measure, but it's really hard to feel like the measurements add up. It's really easy to measure whatever it is. Like, let's say you want to lose, let's just say you want to lose 10 pounds in 10 weeks. It's probably not enough time. Let's say you want to lose 50 pounds this year. I don't know. I feel like for the vast majority of the time, if you don't have the numbers dialed in, you're literally just thinking, am I on or off? But isn't that a level of certainty that you want? I know I'm making progress. I just don't know if I'm making progress at the right level, at the right amount. So it's just, it's hard. I think, okay, the best answer I could give is, and Alan said this early on in our journey, by the time you get to the goal, you might have evolved to a level of yourself where the goal doesn't really make you feel the way you thought it would. Doesn't mean it's not great. It doesn't mean things aren't different. It doesn't mean you're not proud. It just doesn't fix the part of you that you thought it would fix. And I think if things work really, really well, you've already worked on that part of yourself, and it's just like a bonus. If you haven't, then unfortunately it can get to the place where you feel like you just wasted a bunch of time, and now you need to set a goal for the next thing that's going to fix you. When in reality, it's nothing you're going to set external that fixes you. So that, if your goals are external based, don't expect to really feel that much different about yourself internally. Maybe weight loss. I mean, that's understandable because you're literally changing the way you see yourself because you're changing the way you look. But money, relationship, it's all great. But if you don't love you, nothing on this planet is going to make you love yourself externally.
Well, by that rationale, you want to set goals that challenge you to work on those things.
On yourself.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, on yourself.
Set goals based on what they will require you to work on yourself.
Easier said than done, right? Because then you have to kind of have the understanding of how to reverse engineer it. This has helped me. I don't think it'll help anybody else because it probably just sounds super cool. I don't know how useful it actually is. I went from saying, when will we get there, to I want to make sure that when we get there, I can handle it. Like, I want to make sure I'm ready when we get there. And those are two very, very different things. For me, it was always like, when are we going to get there? When are we going to get this? When are we going to get this? When are we going to get this? And I still have that. It's just less. Now I want to make sure when I do get the opportunity, I can actually handle it. I want to make sure that's the thing. I don't want to get an opportunity and lose it because I'm not developed enough.
Okay, so level 1 is when are we going to get there? Level 2 is I want to be ready when we do get there. What's level 3?
How fast do I dictate the next level after we get to that one, probably? What happens when you get to that level? Do you celebrate? What?
I was really hoping you'd say, how far can I go, or how high can I go, or how high can I climb, or that isn't part of the equation for you of reaching. Like, and I'm not making that wrong.
No, that's not it. I don't know what my potential is. I'm not trying to get there because I don't. If I thought,
are you smarter than you ever thought you'd be?
For sure. Yeah.
Are you more competent than you ever thought you'd be?
For sure.
Are you more confident than you ever thought you'd be?
For sure.
All right. Why? How? Instead of why, how?
Reps. There was a goal set that I honestly didn't actually believe I could achieve, but there was a roadmap of, well, if we do these things, this is kind of the way you would do it. Then I just tried to show up, even when I was scared, even when I didn't think I could do it, even when I didn't want to, very, very often. And then eventually, the things that scared me at level 10 out of 10 were like 9 out of 10. And I was like, okay, that wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Then it was 8 out of 10. Then it was 7 out of 10. Then I would go do something on a bigger stage, for lack of better phrasing, that scared me at 10 out of 10 again. It's like, interesting, okay. Now the thing that used to be a 7 is like a 2 because I got a new 10. Then I did the thing that scared me at level 10 out of 10, and then that got better and better and better. I'm very, very confident I don't think about this at all. When you and I are getting ready to record, there's zero part of me that's nervous, worried. I'm not worried about anything. But when we do speeches, I am. I've only done however many in-person speeches. But here's the thing. It took 150 podcast episodes before I got confident as a podcaster. It might only take a third of that for live events because I already have some of the attributes built up. Now, here's the thing.
Are you nervous for Next Level Live 2025?
It's virtual. No, the arena matters. If you said, Kev, you're going to be on in front of 10,000 people from your office, I don't think I'd be that worried. Honestly. Maybe to a delusional extent. I don't know. I feel very comfortable here. I don't have to worry about what to do with my hands. I don't have to worry about where I'm walking. I just fucking sit here. Yeah. Jazz hands. You just think of the reps. Think of the amount of time my ass has been in this chair. Just doing this over and over. So I feel way more comfortable there. Now, this is something I want to add. Because again, I don't want this to all be like highlight, oh yeah, it all is working out. It's all perfect. I went on a podcast yesterday. And I was looking at the description of this podcast. And I said to Alan after, I had no business being on this fucking podcast. It was about startups and AI and all this stuff that I was like, this is going to be horrible. Going to be horrible. Went really well.
When you say it's going to be horrible, unpack the thought process, the actual thought process.
The fear that I have, the deepest fear that I have is it will either be at the very beginning of the episode where the person says, honestly, I fucked up. We're not going to do it. Okay. I'll just see myself out. In the middle, they'll be like, no, we can't finish this. This is not what I expected. Or at the end, they'll just be like, I appreciate your time. Thank you so very much. It's a lot different than I expected. I don't think it's going to be valuable to the audience.
Where does that come from? That's not good enough.
Yeah, it's that. has
Did
never.
that stem from childhood, or?
I think yeah, my dad leaving.
So for me, it's the opposite, where it's, I know I'll do a good job. That doesn't matter if they don't like me.
Well, I'm worried
You
that
know they'll like you, but you don't think you'll do a good job.
there's a little part of me. This is deep. So please sit with me. Don't judge this. There's a little part of me that was like, honestly, it's kind of like cheating because I'm a successful podcaster and he respects me. If I didn't have the podcast, I wonder what he would think of me. It's almost like, yeah, it's almost like I'm not getting the reality of the person and how they
Is
actually
that
think of
imposter
me.
syndrome? Is that what that is?
It's a
What would
piece
you
of it.
call that? Yeah. I had a moment
Yeah.
earlier, I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No, you're good.
there was a podcast I was on, and he said, "Do you struggle with imposter syndrome?" And I this is the first time I was able to articulate it in this way. I said I was too much of a coward in the past to share this, but no. I have imposter syndrome in social situations.
Yes.
At the barbecue, I feel like an imposter. I feel like I don't belong here. When I'm on the microphone being interviewed about complex success principles, I don't feel like an imposter at all. This is all I do. I live this every fucking day. Always. 24/7, 365. I'm not an imposter here. Kevin and I interviewed someone named Steven Kotler for episode 632. I actually sent it to one of my clients recently. And he said, "Wow, you're more jacked now." I'm like, "Dude, I don't know if you're looking at the right camera," because back then Kevin and I were definitely in better shape. But Steven Kotler wrote a book called The Art of Impossible. It's actually in my top 5 now behind me. And it's about how to achieve something that most people think is impossible. And before the interview, we both read the book. We do our research. Awesome. And Kevin and I talked behind the scenes. He's like, "We already kind of implemented everything in this book." And I said, "Well, I've been studying peak performance just like Steven Kotler for a very long time. Kind of my whole life in some ways, but really especially over the last 5 years. At least 5 years at that point, 10 years now." And the truth is when you are aiming at something that most people think is impossible, of course you're going to stumble upon the principles that get you there. Right? And I think that sounds a little overly simplistic. The world becomes your library. Like, we decided to do something. 10 years ago, I decided to shoot for something that's never been done. Okay, I'll keep it high level. Then I reoriented my entire mind, body, heart, and soul to the world became my library to find out how to do it. And Kevin said to me one time, like, "How do you know all this?" I said, "Brother, I had to learn this. Because I couldn't achieve my dream without knowing these things." So it's not like you're not just going to stumble upon success principles. You need to have a goal that requires you to learn them. Okay, what's my point of all this? Kevin and I we spent every Father's Day together. This is before we had the Next Level Hope Foundation Father's Day events. And we went fishing because that was what we used to do on Father's Day. And we went back to where I grew up. And my neighbor across the lake had a family Father's Day barbecue. And I told Kev, this is a big line of demarcation in our relationship where we learned a lot about ourselves. I felt not like an imposter at all interviewing Steven Kotler. I felt like that was where I belong. And I told Kev at the barbecue, I said, "Dude, I don't feel like I belong here at all." And you had the opposite reaction. You said, "Dude, I can hang at a barbecue any day of the week." Got it. Okay, so you have imposter syndrome when you're interviewed by someone who's a space doctor at NASA. I don't feel like I would have imposter syndrome at all. I'd actually be concerned that he's going to think I'm arrogant. And I think that that's something, a lesson in that for everybody is, where do you feel like you're an imposter? I feel like I'm an imposter at Thanksgiving. 100%. I mean, I can't talk about anything I care about, right? What's everyone's goals and dreams for 2025? What? Yeah, no, metrics, habits, priorities, goals, skills, thoughts. It's like, what the fuck? Isn't it Thanksgiving? Don't you want to eat? So where do you feel like an imposter is a big sort of lesson I want to extrapolate out of this. Okay, last question. I know you got to jump. How long do you have? 9 minutes?
I have 9, like 8. I need a minute.
How dare you? I'm kidding. Okay, 8 minutes. Suckiest advice. So 8 years ago, you started a podcast. Boom, we're successful, quote unquote. Mountain that gets higher as you climb it. Awesome. Statistically speaking, though, as podcasters, we've gotten to a place most podcasters never will, statistically speaking. Very grateful. 16-person team, heard in 175 countries, 1.17 million listens. Okay, awesome. Very grateful. You've achieved a lot of what a lot of people want to achieve. Your dreams, living your dream life. What's the suckiest advice that you've gotten in the last 8 years? And why? It's just horse shit.
Oh, man. There's been a lot of it. I've chase your passion, chase your purpose, money will come. That's not true. It's just not true. For most people. I think some people it works, but
It's my bad.
It wasn't you.
I was in that camp for a time.
Yeah,
A little bit I know is I was good at.
I think it's really empowering. I think it's really empowering, but without strategy. You could say my passion is fitness. Cool. Go exercise. Go awesome, but there has to be some strategy, or you're not going to get any results. That's one of the biggest ones. And I think the second one is if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I think that's one of the most disempowering things ever, because I've never met somebody who loves life all the time. There's going to be some stuff that sucks with everything. I am in the best relationship I've ever been in. I am deeply in love. I'm going to be with Taryn for the rest of my life. There are some things that suck.
Mm-hmm.
But it's outweighed by the things that are truly amazing. I think it's all it is. It's just a different ratio. Like I used to go to jobs where I fucking hated it. And some days were good. Like, that was a pretty good day. Right? The ratio was 90% shit and 10% cool. And I think as you find what you love and you do more and more and more of it, the ratio shifts. And then even shitty days now are better than great days used to be, because at least I'm doing what I love and I'm adding value and all that. But I work a lot. I work every day in some way, shape, or form. And that's just the way I think it's going to be forever. And I would say this. If what you do fulfills you, you'll probably be okay with working every day for the rest of your life. There's a little part of me, did I say this on the podcast? There was just a bunch of stuff going on with the business, and I was I was on the couch eating dinner at 7:30, and I had my cell phone in one hand and my fork in the other. And I was in WhatsApp for an hour. My food was getting cold. There's a little part of me that kind of loves it. Yeah, we're making progress here. We're putting out fires. It's stressful, but I wouldn't rather be doing anything else. So yeah, that. If what you do truly fulfills you, you're probably going to be okay with working way more than other people. And you're going to be wildly misunderstood, because I think fulfillment is a drug that we're all after, but most of us don't know how to find it. Understandably so. That.
How do you find it?
If you've ever had something where you said, oh my goodness, I'm in love with that. If I could find a way to make a living out of doing that, my life would be incredible. That's the best advice I can give, because that's where I started. That. You just don't want it to go away. You're afraid it's going to get taken away from you. You're afraid you're not going to be able to do it anymore. You're afraid you're going to have to do it less. It's that. It's something that you feel so abundantly attached to that you can't imagine doing less of it. I can't imagine not podcasting. I can't imagine it. My life would feel, again, I'm married and I have a great relationship, all that, but it would feel empty. It wouldn't feel the same. It wouldn't feel the same not adding value. It wouldn't feel the same to me. I wouldn't trade it for anything. There's nothing I would trade it for. I would say that's probably the highest level of fulfillment.
Nice. Last question.
Yeah.
3 minutes. That was the suckiest advice you ever got was, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. Bullshit. You know the card game Bullshit?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I like about when you hear self-improvement principles. You can call bullshit. It's You're lying.
Seems too good to be true.
Yeah, it probably is, and that's the facts, because there's a constructive and destructive part of, there's North Pole, South Pole, above the iceberg, below the iceberg. Okay, that was the suckiest advice you ever got. A couple things. What's the best advice you ever got? And actually unpack it too. No bumper sticker self-improvement.
I always go back to big things start small. You said that in the very beginning. I know it's not advice, but it was like, what if you just knew that where you were starting was probably going to be more underwhelming than you thought? And that gave you the permission to like actually just keep doing it. That. We have a client, shout out to Jenna if you're listening. She just crossed 50 listens on our podcast. And she was so excited.
Yeah.
It's like, fuck yeah, Jenna.
Yeah.
Yes, that's awesome. There's probably a lot of people that would hear that and say, like, only 50 listens. That's where everybody starts, though. Every single person ever of all time has started at 50 listens in something. That. You're not at the place where I'm at, where I can say big things start small, because I know I was there too, and now I'm further, and it's a whole thing. But everybody starts there in everything. So I think that's probably it, because in some way, shape, or form, we're all starting from some foundation. And
okay, I'll wrap. Go ahead.
I was going to say the only difference between somebody who stops at 50 listens and continues is the one who understands 50 listens is just par for the course and a necessary metric to cross.
Well, you said this at top. I'll wrap this in a bow. I know you got to go.
No, that's good. I'm going to text this person because they're texting me right now.
Okay. You said at the beginning that you were playing not to lose status, social status, and perception.
Yeah.
If someone is playing not to lose social status and perception, you're going to be too embarrassed about 50 listens to keep going. You guarantee failure.
You lose it by default.
You lose it by default. And I think that that's one thing. And for anyone on my side of the fence here, when it comes to playing not to lose relationships, if Kevin were to give younger Kev a piece of advice, it would be, you have to risk losing social status in the short term in order to gain it long term. And for me, you have to risk losing friends now to gain your dreams and goals. Because there's no fucking chance they're coming with you on this journey that is just not for everybody. Strong work, man.
I would say that's accurate. So I'm pretending I'm just going to look straight at the camera because I can't look. My laptop's here now. It's the whole thing. I'm getting ready for the next interview. I'll look up here. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Getting ready for the next interview.
I'm getting ready for the next interview.
Many leather-bound books.
I'll make sure maybe the next episode we'll do an Alan interview. I got to think of something good, though.
Oh, dude, it's all good. You don't
talk about what it's like to work with such a fucking genius. What is it like to work with Kev every day? What has that been like for you? Pretty humbling, I can imagine. He's probably taught you a lot about yourself, right? You ever get starstruck? Sure. You ever get starstruck by him? No. I appreciate the questions. And again, this one's always hard for me because I didn't reverse engineer any of this. I've been along for the ride. I show up. I'll change the tire. I'll put oil in it. Whatever. I'll change the windshield wipers. Whatever needs to get done. But you have been instrumental. I guess that's an understatement. So you got to find yourself an Alan. That's what you got to do. And then you got to put up with his bullshit. Like, again, great. We got a great relationship. Best business partner in the world. He's a pain in my ass sometimes, just like I'm a pain in his ass.
Well, you said it with your wife, Taryn. Not everything's great. 99% or 90%, I think, is what you used, is great. And there's 10% that isn't great. And
well, that wasn't my relationship. That was everything else. My relationship's 99.1.
Okay, fair. Yeah, saying something on a public medium. No, but seriously, I think that's really powerful. Okay, I know we got to get out of here. I also desperately have to pee, so let's do it.
I'm not going to have time to pee, unfortunately. I got an hour and a half interview. 90 minutes right now of bladder-bursting interviews. All right. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. At NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay next level. Next Level Nation.